Adam Schefter on the Browns and the number 2 pick. This from NFL Live.
Abdul Carter's going to go before the New England Patriots pick at 4. It'd be an upset right now if Abdul Carter made his way to number 4. I would handicap Abdul Carter right now as the likely pick at number 2 today. We reserve the right to change our mind. A lot of things change, but the way this is shaking out to me, fluid, it looks like he's tracking to be a Brown, and let's see how it plays out.
So this also comes out today that Abdul Carter will not work out at Penn State's Pro Day Friday. That's per his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Still finishing up rehab on the shoulder injury he had from the Boise State game. May do a workout for teams sometimes in mid-April. Also important to note that he wasn't measured at the Combine because he had to leave the Combine early for medicals and didn't get verified numbers in Indianapolis. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd, host of Browns 3D on the Orange and Brown Report. So, Jeff, why do you think the Browns should just draft Abdul Carter? Are you at all concerned about the medicals?
Well, this was always going to be the question, was going to be this key date of March 28th, the Penn State Pro Day. But there's several ways to look at this. You know, we're in an era now where guys necessarily don't have to do anything during the draft cycle. Marvin Harrison Jr. set that precedent last year, wasn't injured. So a little bit of a different story, sir, for Abdul Carter. I will begin all of this by saying Abdul Carter has not missed a college game yet. So we are talking about a player who's dealing with some injury rehab right now in March. I'm sure there's a lot of players in the NFL right now who are kind of going through the same thing. They mentioned the shoulder first. If it's just the shoulder, was there some sort of surgery? What exactly was the extent of it? If it's the foot, he is going to go back, and anybody gets flagged for a medical when you're at the Combine, you do have to go back out to Indianapolis before the draft, and they run you guys through all the same tests again. And then basically the league has a one unified doctor that basically submits a report that all 32 teams get the same report. So, it could be we're not working out till we get our medical recheck, which isn't a terrible idea either. There could be assurances for Abdul Carter that, he doesn't necessarily need to work out. You just heard Adam Schefter say Giants would be interested. The Patriots would be interested. Certainly the Browns at 2 above both of those teams are interested. It definitely raises a little bit of the concern because we don't know where anything is at. I think the medical recheck now becomes the next important thing. And I don't think we really get a day on that. It's kind of one of those things. Well, the rechecks are in. Here is the deal. They don't have like a set date with all that. But what I look at is, the financial investment in a Myles Garrett. So what I'm saying to myself is defensively, I could have Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter for the next 5 seasons. And, that could essentially be my defense. Certainly a lot of moving parts from year to year. And if you look at it as a 5-year plan, a lot of moving parts over a 5-year plan. But, as Myles maybe starts to come back down to earth as almost being human like the rest of us, should be the time that Abdul Carter is ascending. People have taken knocks on Carter and say he's too small. Well, he's bigger coming into the draft than Von Miller was. He hasn't done this his entire career. He hasn't played on the edge. Well, same player from Penn State, Micah Parsons, did the same type of thing. He was primarily, and he didn't really play edge at Penn State. Dallas was in a need, and they just kind of threw him out there and kind of were like, oh, well, he can do this too, which totally changed, the landscape of Micah Parsons' career. You can stand him up. You can still keep McGuire on the field. You could still keep Alex Wright on the field. You could stand Abdul Carter up and just basically have him look for a gap on the interior that he's going to shoot. I think he is just so unique, and people aren't going to understand if he doesn't test just how athletic he is. But Penn State is pretty legit about putting their information out there, where they were one of the first schools that used to release their pro day information. They would literally put out a sheet showing how everybody tested. So in the spring, they had Abdul Carter in like 4.45 range, 4.48 range, which is a full 1/10 of a second faster than Myles was at the time. He's just really unique. And I think the thing that I really like about him is even if he doesn't just blow it out of the park as an absolute stud in the NFL, he's still a 10+ sack guy in the NFL year in, year out. He achieves his full ceiling. You're pairing essentially 2 guys on the field together at the same time that could combine for 30 sacks a season.
Yeah, he played basically with one arm against Notre Dame in that playoff game and was really effective. So
Best player on the field.
Yeah, I watched that game and I'm like, yeah, I'm in.